After Japan entered the war, he wanted to travel to Asia. Here, the Japanese had large numbers of Indian prisoners of war whom he wanted to bring over to the side of the Indian independence movement.
Now, an even more daring journey was planned. At dawn on February the 8th, 1943, Bose and his assistant Hassan climbed into a German submarine for a dangerous journey south through the battle zone of the Atlantic. After 2.5 months, they connected with a Japanese submarine in the Indian Ocean. Bose was now a guest of the Imperial Japanese Navy and determined to negotiate the support of none less than Prime Minister Tojo himself.
India and Japan have in the past been bound by the cultural ties which are about 20 centuries old. In recent times,
the Japanese were beginning to lose the war in the Pacific and needed an important victory. The demands of Subhas Chandra Bose fitted well with their aims. By July, with Japanese support, Bose was on his way to Singapore. He was going to raise his army and argue for a prominent role in any move the Japanese made against the British in India. Once there, Bose was proclaimed leader of the revitalized Indian Independence League. He toured Singapore and Malaya, aggressively lobbying for funds and support. At every rally, every event, he was received by thousands of rapturous Indians. At a rally in the Cathay Cinema in Singapore, he proclaimed the birth of a provisional government of free India, the Azad Hind. It would have a legitimate military wing, the Indian National Army. Just 2 days later, he formally declared war on America and England. With the defeat of British forces in Malaya and Burma, a unique opportunity existed. Bose argued that it was the duty of every Indian in Southeast Asia to make maximum use of it, a total mobilization of manpower and resources.
hour has struck, and every patriotic Indian must advance towards the field of battle. Only when the blood of freedom-loving Indians begins to flow will India attain her freedom. Inqilab Zindabad. Azad Hind Zindabad.
People clamored to support the effort with everything they had. They donated thousands of dollars worth of cash and jewelry, their precious earrings and bangles. After one rally, it took 72 hours just to register the donations of cash and gold. After the success of the rallies, Bose sent his new leader of the Women's Regiment on a recruitment drive to Malaya. Lakshmi campaigned furiously and found some of her most outstanding recruits. Many were just teenage girls from the rubber plantations, eager to fight for a motherland they had never seen, to follow a leader who believed in their worth, their Netaji. Now in their 80s, Meenachi and Anjali were among the first in Malaya to answer the call. They still remember those times as the best in their lives. Meenachi was just 16 years old, Anjali 22, when they secretly joined the regiment without their family's knowledge.
ஆமிக்கு போகிறாங்க எல்லாரும்னு சொன்னாங்க. அப்போ வீட்டில் சேர்றாங்கன்னு சொன்னா பொம்பளை ஜான்சி ராணி. அப்போ நான் சொன்னேன் இந்த மாதிரி நானும் போகிறேன் அப்படின்னுட்டு. அப்போ தெரியாமல் போய் பதிஞ்சிட்டு வந்துட்டு அப்புறம் சொல்லியாச்சு போகக்கூடாதுன்னாங்க. நாங்கள் போனோம், ஒரு ஆர்வத்தில் போயிட்டோம்.
நீங்களா ஜிந்தாபாத் இந்துஸ்தான் அசத்.
For almost 50 years, Rasama Bhupalan has been a leader of women's rights organizations in Malaysia. But back in 1943, she and her sister were just teenagers, fighting against their mother's wishes to be allowed to join up.
Of course, the whole family was aghast. What madness! What stupidity! What kind of absolute ignorance to want to join an army that's going to war? You little fledglings!
It was only a visit from Lakshmi and her powers of persuasion that convinced the girl's mother to release her little fledglings into the care of the regiment.
She told my mother, I'm going to die for India. You know, I'm a doctor. And my mother was impressed. And my mother then became convinced by her arguments. We danced, we laughed, we were so happy. We rushed to our neighbors' homes, all of whom didn't want us to go, and told them good news.
I think what Bose gave them was a sense of purpose that went far beyond the confines of their lives at that point of time. They were young people, ordinary people. They wanted to get married, they wanted to have children. But he made it, he brought history to their doorsteps, and therefore they had to cross over into historical space, so to say. And he did it because, again, there was this idea that just as Indian men have to fight for India's independence, you cannot not have Indian women fight for the same thing, because they are Indians as well. They were not a toy army. They were real fighters. They were there to kill and to be killed.
This was no token force. Over the course of the struggle, 1,000 women volunteered. They knew they could and would die for their country.
We were real soldiers. We were freedom fighters.
July 1943. The Indian community in Southeast Asia was buzzing with excitement. Plans were afoot to attack the British over the border between Burma and India. Most extraordinary of all, women would be there, fighting blow by blow, right alongside their menfolk. This would be one of the first times in modern history that women were trained for active combat roles.
ஆமியில் சேர்ந்தோடனே எல்லாம் ரொம்ப பேர் எல்லாம் சிறு வயசு தானே ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருந்தது. மிலிட்ரியில் இருக்கும்போது அப்படி ஒன்றும் கவலையாகவே இல்லை, எங்களுக்கு சந்தோஷமா தான்.
They made their home in an abandoned Singapore barracks. By this time, the girls were in uniform and most had cut their hair. With funds, arms, uniforms and a place to train, this band of women were raring to go.
ரைபிள் பைனட் இருக்கு, அது பழகும்போது தான் நாங்கள் இப்படி செய்யணும். பழகி கொடுப்பாங்கல்ல எங்களுக்கு. எல்லாம் லோடு பண்ணுவேன், எல்லாம் செய்தேன். பிளேன் கண்ணும் செய்தேன் நான். அப்புறம் பிஸ்டோலு, பெரிய ரைபிள் எல்லாம் நான் செய்தேன். எனக்கு தெரியும், இப்போ கூட செய்தேன். ஏன்னா அப்போ வயசு குறைவு தானேங்க, ரொம்ப முறுக்கமாக இருந்தேன். அதனால தான்.
Training intensified as plans got underway to move the regiment to Burma. In late 1943 and early 1944, Bose moved his headquarters, the INA and the Azad Hind administration, to Rangoon. The Rani of Jhansi unit was soon to follow. Bose's tactic was to take the battle outside India, mobilizing the Indians of Southeast Asia in particular. They would attack the British from a position they wouldn't anticipate, across their eastern frontier.
Bose was a master strategist. He realized that if you want to take the British on, they take them on where they are the weakest. And of course, they were very weak after the fall of Singapore.
फौजी बन के रहना है, दुख तक मुसीबत है न है।